The ginger beer is cracked. It's been cracked open. The latte has been consumed. It was about 8 p.m. tonight. I had a latte. Needed it just to be here with you. You never know when it's going to happen. Well, you do know it's going to happen at night. These night stories, these nighttime radio stories. That's why it's important that wherever you're listening to this, like, subscribe, do the whole notification bell so that you know. I know there was several people who joined early on. We usually go live for about 15 minutes to get things rolling. And we're off. This is Night Radio. I'm Aaron Calafato. I'm your host. You may have heard me from my podcast, 7 Minute Stories. We've touched over 30 million ears in the last 2.5 years. And maybe you heard some of my short stories here on YouTube or my new series, The Storytelling University, which is under the 7 Minute Stories umbrella that we just launched. Or maybe you've caught me here live. Either way, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. What are you doing right now? You relaxing? Are you taking it all in? Are you unwinding for the night? Whatever it is, I'm here with you. Are you going to work? Damn, I remember working weird hours, weird jobs, and weird hours. There's a thing with that. You just finished putting the kids to bed? Are you traveling? You on the road? I know a lot of you are on the road in the evening. Wherever you're at, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. We had a lot to cover tonight. I've been thinking about this one. I'm going to try to lean into, philosophize, dive deep, tell stories, and try to answer the question just from my point of view. And maybe along the way, if you can join, as we're live on YouTube, we're live on Facebook, and we're live at 7minutestoriespod.com/night radio. Let me know in the comment section wherever you're at, and it comes in through an Omni stream, and myself and Corey filter through stuff, and we'll try to interact throughout the evening as well. My multitasking skills, you all know this, especially if you're a fan of my storytelling. I got one mode, but I'll do my best. And I want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts as you're hearing some of these stories. Does it unlock memories for you? Are you thinking about stuff that happened to you in the past? Does it trigger something for you? So, what we're going to try to unpack tonight is why is it that celebrity deaths or people of note, people that impact culture, why does it hit differently? Got to say hi to my folks on the West Coast. We're just finishing dinner. Dwayne, nice to see you here again. I know there's a lot of you out there as well. It's maybe a perfect time, just finishing up dinner. Take a listen. Hey, and as some of you folks on the East Coast, if you're falling asleep, that's great too. I'm here for you. Let's do this together. Okay. It is July 23rd, 11:20 p.m. Eastern Time. And one day ago, on July 22nd, Ozzy Osbourne passed away. Ozzy, man. And it got me thinking because I've been impacted throughout my life as I've gotten older by not just celebrity deaths, but deaths of people that have had such an impact on my life, the life of the generation that I came up in. I'm an elder millennial, but this isn't just me. This happens to everybody, right? What's that reaction that happens when someone that you immersed yourself in, whether it's their art, their music, they were part of a show, it happens, right? You go, oh, damn, this is really difficult. Or this one hit hard. For me, Ozzy Osbourne really, really hit hard. And I'm trying to understand why that is because there's people who come and go every day in this world. You know this, right? People are it's weird to think about. People are coming and going, being born and moving on, passing away in this cycle every single day. And for me, I judge my own level of empathy because I'm like, why aren't I feeling this shocked or sad when I hear about the person down the road or, in the state next to me? It's not that I don't feel something. I do. I have empathy. I have sympathy, and clearly, if it's in the ecosystem of my world, I'm moved by it. Everyone has a varying degree of empathy, right? Some people are like, yeah, it's too bad. Sorry to hear that. Sorry for your loss. And then some people really feel it, even when that loss is far away, not even near you. But there is a through line, there's a thread that happens when there's a celebrity or a person of impact, someone that has been part of the zeitgeist of your life. And we're going to unpack why. Great to see you, Chad. I see you in there. Let's pop that in there. I think it's because we have a thought of what they might be like in person. We have a persona of how we would act together, maybe. Then when they're gone, it's an unanswered question. I I think that's a great point. I think what you're hitting on there, it is a relationship. So hear me out. It is a relationship. I'm driving down the street tonight with my daughter. We went out for a little bit of, got some chicken katsu, some white rice, hit up a restaurant called Edamame, had some dinner. We're driving along, and I got the windows open, and I'm hearing Crazy Train out windows passing me by from Ozzy. Right? I'm just, I'm about to pump my fist. I told my daughter, I said, people are paying homage to Ozzy. And she knows Crazy Train. So then I said, listen, we got to go through just an education here for you. And she and I'm going through his greatest hits. I'm going back to Black Sabbath. I'm going through the 80s, Bark at the Moon. I'm going all the way through No More Tears. That song, No More Tears, if you haven't heard it, that bass line, boom, doom, boom, doom, boom, doom, boom, doom, doom, doom. Guitars come in, wow. Zach Wilde squealing on the guitar. He had the amazing Randy Rhoads, rest in peace, who was squealing on the guitar, shredding in Crazy Train. He, for me as a musician, as a guy who, well, I'm a guitar player now in theory, but man, I used to shred. I used to have dreams, man. Those dreams turned into this dream, which is a wonderful dream. But as a kid, crushing that guitar for the first time, I, I've won, I've won air guitar competitions. Spot on, Chad. I've won air guitar competitions. So this hits music in a way. I didn't realize the impact that Ozzy Osbourne had on music across all spectrums of rock. If you picked up a guitar, you know Ozzy. If you hit a power chord, you know Ozzy. If you chugged along in a metal band, anything, prog rock, when I'm seeing all the different tributes people are making to him, that's when you know it hits different when a celebrity dies. It's just different. There's a kind of impact it has across all forms of music and so many people. But the other reason why I think, and several of you are mentioning this, Amy, you're right too. Chad said it as well. There is a relationship that's established with an artist an actor. Look, Jamal Warner, Theo in the Cosbys just passed away tragically a day or two ago as well, drowned off the coast of Costa Rica, I believe, in the ocean. Tragic. That one really hit too, because regardless of the controversy of Bill Cosby in recent years and everything that happened there, that doesn't take away the fact that there was this show that millions and millions of Americans watched, and it was part of their lives. That's the thing, right? It's like part of our lives. But what does that mean? You don't know the person, but you know their art. You don't know the person, but you know their character. Now, the storytelling I do is a little different because it's autobiographical, and there is a way I'm sharing a part of my real life with my audience. That's a relationship, and that grows. But it just hits different when you reach a certain level of fame and impact in the world. It just does. Listen, no matter what, we have been lucky. I have been lucky with my storytelling on the podcast apps primarily, and now here on YouTube to reach millions and millions of people. Okay. I have dreams, I have goals to reach as many as possible. There ain't no way I'm reaching the type of impact Ozzy Osbourne had, or that the Cosby Show had, or that any of these type of artists. They're transcendent. Bob Dylan, transcendent. The Beatles, transcendent. Rolling Stones, transcendent. I'm telling you, I'm driving down the street, and all I hear from people's cars is Crazy Train, No More Tears, Mama, I'm coming home. People are crying. You ever been to Ozfest or any of these concerts? I remember dudes, they're D'd up, they got muscles, they got tattoos, they're crying when he's singing Mama, I'm coming home. They're crying, men and women together crying. There was something there. And it hit people on a musical level. It hit the music industry. It hit artists. And it hit those of us who had that in our lives. Think about that. 15 years ago, you're in a bar and you're asking someone out, or you're driving home from some tragedy that happened, and there's something on the radio, and it's a song, and it's an artist, and you form a relationship with that song and that artist in that moment. Not with them personally, but what they created there. That now is part of your nexus. That's part of the tapestry of your life. It's always going to be sticky and tethered to that moment. Todd, you're right. Todd's chiming in as well. It's like it becomes an anthem of your life. Todd's saying it becomes an anthem of your life. Elizabeth's chiming in here. To me, music legends hit hard because of memories. That's right. I met my first love while Kiss was playing. Come on now. By the way, Kiss, what a show. They were doing one of their farewell tours. By the way, Elizabeth, listen, I'm an elder millennial, but I'm feeling old these days too. What's so wild is in 96, Kiss had a tour. It was their farewell tour in 1996. What a show. Best band on the planet. And that moment that you had when you had that first love, in a weird way, Kiss is part of it. I couldn't agree more, Elizabeth. Dire Straits guitar. Woo! Think about a dance that you had, or think about that moment that you fell in love or your first kiss. Think about something, and I'm careful with this, but something that hit your heart in a really difficult way, or a song that got you out of a heartbreak or a loss or helped you through it musically, or a show. I can't tell you how many shows and stories. I say this a little bit dramatically, but I mean this, saved my life. And you can say, and stories too. by the way, people who are spiritual as well, that's a story arc. When people talk about some of the great myths and the great stories and the great religions, story is not like story like, oh, that's a story. To many people, those story arcs are absolutely real and vital, right? So whether it's religion, whether it's art, whether it's movies, whether it's books, that form of narrative, because we are narrative thinkers, taps into what is actually real and human about us. It is literally what makes us human. It's wild. When celebrities go, when artists go, when musicians like Ozzy go, it hits different. It feels different. Doesn't mean you don't have empathy. Doesn't mean you're a bad person because someone that you don't know 50 miles away passes away naturally or tragically. You can attempt to feel. I can attempt to feel. I just don't know them. But you actually have a relationship with art. And that's why, man, that's why I'm in this business because it's an actual relationship. Now, is it as complex as the relationship with your husband, wife, partner, kid, friend, neighbor? No. But I've always said the shortest distance between two souls to know each other is a story. I'll say it again. The shortest distance between two souls is a story. And what's a song? It's a story. What's a novel? It's a story. What's a poem? It's a story. And then those memories that get attached that so many of you are talking here, they get attached to the song and the story and the memory and what you are, what you were, what you're going to be. It all becomes one. Thanks for thanks to so many of you for joining me wherever you're at. I know we're streaming on a bunch of different networks. I see a lot of comments coming in, so I'm going to keep working through them. Dave says it's the soundtrack of his life. Dave, I, I got you, man. Was the soundtrack of a lot of people's lives tonight as they're blasting Ozzy in their car. I remember my mom read me a story when I was a really little kid. It was like, I mean, this one is I can't. I got to look up the title while I'm saying it. This is all extemporaneous, but it's like a children's book. I love you like my baby you'll be, something like this. I'm crying my eyes out at that age. Elizabeth's talking about lullabies. As simple as a lullaby, as simple as a song, as simple as a little story. For me, it was Aesop Fables or Aesop's Fables. I remember that. Little stories. And it's the same thing with why there's a correlation between celebrity and why it hits harder. And I think celebrity is the best worst word one can use because when we think of that, it's just someone of note, but it's more than that because you could feel differently about a celebrity that you know and is known, and it doesn't hit as hard. But man, if that celebrity, if that artist, if that movie star, if that actor, if that show hits you or was part of the tapestry of your life, damn, it's going to hit different forever. Now, I got a bunch of stories for you tonight. I'm going to go deep into the archives of my mind, and I have celebrity stories that I had an either direct encounter with or kind of a somewhat encounter with, and see if this jogs any of your stories and memories. That's the whole point here. It's 11:36 p.m. July 23rd, 2025 on the East Coast. Eric says he's been playing Ozzy Osbourne for the last 24 hours. I absolutely love that. Damn, Chad's talking about the Andy Griffith show. Come on now. I can't whistle well, but here we come, right? I can't even try it. That I just forgot how to whistle. But what's the song? To do Ron Howard's there, Andy Griffith, man, and then the man in a hurry. Oh, it's going. That's a deep cut. There's that country song with Andy Griffith in there, right? It's like waiting on a woman. Woo! That one gets you. Thanks, Elizabeth, for jumping on. I really appreciate you. Glad that you found me here as well. We started nighttime stories and night stories really as a sister project from my podcast 7 Minute Stories. And interestingly enough, this live experience here, no scripts, just me telling stories off the top of my head. So I tell stories extemporaneous. Anybody that's joining me here, you get to be kind of part of the source material. This is sort of like the where a lot of stories are born, like stars are born, stories for my podcast are born here. So you're a part of that and helping shape that. I love it. You know what's funny? Elizabeth, I agree. Ozzy had an awesome look when he was younger, but you know what? Like I loved he was always stylistically put together. And I know a lot of that's marketing and Sharon Osbourne and man, she did an amazing job keeping him together. He was so lucky to have her. But yeah, the whole package, there was something unique. He had an interesting thing to say whether you liked him or not, he had an impact. So, celebrity encounters have had that have changed my life, or at least changed the trajectory of my life, and celebrity encounters and that when they died had a big impact on me. I got a few of them here for you. So, I don't know if anyone here, and I know there's a lot of you who heard this story on 7 Minute Stories, but I'm going to go deeper on this one. I'm going to add details I couldn't get to because I only have 7 minutes. I don't know if anyone here has seen the movie The Sandlot. And I use this as my reference because The Sandlot is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's very Americana. I grew up watching it. It's got that beautiful style where there's a narration happening and kids growing up and the golden days of America. Very romantic, very um, Rockwellian, right? And for a lot of people that's not their reality, but for a lot of people it was. But it tapped into this thing, this nostalgia piece of Americana and small town America. And in that movie, there's an actor who plays Babe Ruth, who plays the Babe. And he appears to one of the main characters as a ghost from the past. Oh, man. And this actor who played Babe Ruth is a guy named Art LaFleur. If you haven't heard of Art LaFleur, look him up. And I guarantee you will know his face. Art LaFleur. He's got this quote in the movie The Sandlot as Babe Ruth, talking to the main character, Benny. Remember, kid, there's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. Follow your heart, kid, and you'll never go wrong. During this dream sequence, right? Now, if you look at Art LaFleur's face, you'll know he has been in dozens and dozens and dozens of films, hundreds. He was in Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner. He played the Tooth Fairy and the Santa Claus, I think like two or three. When I was in college, I was part of the University Film Organization. And my friend John and I, John was the president, were trying to figure out who we wanted to bring in to judge this film festival. And we're going through all these different names of people that we want to bring in there. And we're trying to find an Ohio connection because I'm 20 minutes south of Cleveland in a small, beautiful, idyllic town called Medina. We pronounce it Medina because we're Midwestern, but Medina. It's Medina, Ohio. It's beautiful. I've boomeranged back here, grew up, left DC, New York, came back. Here I am. Love this town. I'm coming straight to you from my basement, my home studio basement, 20 minutes south of Cleveland. Now, check this out. I'm at school at Bowling Green State University, and we're going through different people who might have Ohio connections. We tried to go to reach out to Michael Keaton because he went to Kent State University. Couldn't get a hold of him. By the way, we're just some college kids, so we don't even know how to communicate right. We don't know what we're doing. We're not agents. We're not in PR. We don't know how to get conversion rates for emails. And this is back in the day when there's very little, if any, social media. We had like instant messenger, and we had Facebook was just starting, but you had email. That's what you had. And you had a phone, and you had a phone. You could call an agent, but no one's answering the call to college kids. And we had a tiny budget, and we're trying to bring someone to make a huge splash at the university. We wanted to make an impact. We wanted to be stars. Like people are turning around going, these guys brought that celebrity here, and they were students and they did it. Yeah, that's us. We wanted to be the talk of the town. So Michael Keaton declined, not him, his agent. They never hear it, it's always their agent. We tried to reach out to the guy who played MacGyver, Richard Dean Anderson. Couldn't get a hold of him. Got a rejection email weeks later. So we kept reaching out. And eventually, this guy wasn't from Ohio, but he was from Indiana, so he's from the Midwest. And we reach out to this guy, Art LaFleur, because I remember him in The Sandlot, the movie. I'm like, this guy, he's just got that face that everybody recognizes that they have forgotten. Like, you don't know the name, but you're like, yeah, I know that guy. So we reached out. We were able to get in touch with his agent, and he responds and he's like, yes, I will come out to your university. This is Bowling Green State University, and I'll be part of the film festival. Now, I got to tell you, this budget, it was pretty, it was $1,000, which you think, oh, that's a lot. But after you do airfare, it's like he's walking away with like $200. He's got to fly from California all the way to the cornfields of Northwest Ohio. But he says yes. And when he booked and he said, yeah, we were on top of the world. We coordinate to pick him up at an airport in Detroit. That's where his flight went in. We had to drive another hour and a half or whatever back to Northwest Ohio. And when we picked him up, I know for me, this was the first time had ever met a celebrity or anyone who was in a movie. So I was nervous. You sometimes get worried that you're going to meet your heroes or people that you admire and they can be assholes. I mean, and that happens. That's happened to me a lot. But this guy, Art LaFleur, was not an asshole. This guy came off as Midwestern and sensible and generous and kind as I thought he would be. And he gets off the plane and we're like, hey, Art, how you doing? My name's Aaron. I'm an actor. I was studying acting at the time. This is my friend John. He's the president. I'm the co-president. Whatever our titles were. We got this crappy rental car. We're like, hey, we hope you enjoyed the flight. I know it was coach because we could only afford coach. He's like, oh no, it's fine. It was great. It was wonderful. And so he gets into this broken down Oldsmobile that I'm driving. It's barely hanging on. It's got rust everywhere. And I'm driving the guy from Sandlot and Field of Dreams in my car back to college. Now, see, I think in my mind that this is a star because to me he is and he was. To me, growing up, if you're in a movie like that, you made it. Now, as I got older and I get into the industry and I start working and finding my way into what I'm doing now, you find out, just because you're seen or known or heard or in this or in that doesn't mean you're living a celebrity life. In fact, 99.9% of working artists are just that. They're just working artists. And they have a break here and a break there, but they have to keep working. They have a career. The only difference is they're in public view. And then you have an echelon of artists, the transcendent artist, the celebrity artist, that then cracks through a ceiling and ends up permeating culture. The rest of us are tapping into a deep audience, maybe if we're lucky, a committed audience, but we're not necessarily transcending culture globally. And so in my mind, though, this guy Art was on par with an Ozzy Osbourne. Like, cause I'm like, this guy's in the movies. We get back to the university, and we're walking around campus. Yeah, this guy, Elizabeth, he was in MASH. Yeah, look at this guy's credits. Terry, yes, Terry's looking at these as well. Terry, how many? Yeah, Terry said he's like 100 plus movie credits. Yeah, he's in all these movies that were part of so many of our lives cross generationally, not just Gen Z and millennial and Gen Xers and boomers. I mean, across decades and decades. So we get back to the university and we have him in this really crappy Days Inn hotel. And I'm feeling ashamed because I'm thinking this guy should be flying first class. He couldn't be happier, couldn't be more grateful. We pick him up the next day and we're walking around town with him, and something interesting starts happening. We're walking around and people start recognizing him. Hey, is that the guy? Isn't that the babe? Is that the babe from the Sandlot? I know that guy. I know that guy. Now we're walking, John and I are walking next to him like we're something, right? We felt like, we're part of something big. We're taking him to event. He judged some of the films. He's getting to meet the staff and the faculty. We're taking him to lunch at the cafeteria. Took the guy to the cafeteria for lunch because we had our food cards and we got a little bit of a stipend so that he could get food at the cafeteria. And all I'm thinking in my mind is, this guy's got to be having the worst time ever. He's probably thinking, why did I do this? I was paranoid about this. Taking a sip of ginger beer, by the way. No names on the ginger beer. We're waiting. Maybe we'll get a sponsor soon. Mm. Non-alcoholic ginger beer. Man, this is amazing. All right, where were we? So I'm feeling bad, thinking this guy's having the worst time ever. We go back out to an event that was held at a bar, and when we go out, there are tons of people on the sidewalk walking back and forth to class, and people are noticing, like lots of people are noticing. And I noticed that Art is taken by this. He's kind of blushing. People are asking for his autograph. He's signing his name. We go to the bar. We can barely even do the event because people are coming up to him and talking to him and saying how much he meant to them because they grew up with this movie. And he turns to me. This is after now hours and hours. He turns to me and he goes, I just want to tell you, thank you for asking me to do this. I've never done anything like this. This was one of the best weekends I've ever had as an actor. This is one of the best weekends of my life. I was confused by that. I said, are you sure, man? You don't have to say that if you're not really. He goes, no, this is one of the best weekends of my life. He says, in LA, I'm just another actor. But he said, but here, for the first time in my life, I feel like a movie star. For the first time in my life. I think he was in his 60s at the time. I was confused by this. Why does he feel like he wasn't a star when I saw him as a star? And if this was true, this was like one of the best things ever that he got this. And I realized why. I realized why this sort of fervor. I realized in that moment why he finally felt like a star. It was because of the environment and it was perfect timing because he was at a college with 18 to 20 to 22 to 23-year olds, right? And this was before Cameo and social media and all that stuff. This was just a guy plopping down in the middle of Ohio or the northwest portion of Ohio. I got really geographically correct there. I didn't need to do that. But here we go. My point is, he's in the cornfield in a damn liberal arts university, and he's walking around. He's been in LA working his tail off, and that's just an industry town, right? He comes here for the first time. He's surrounded by the very people and young people that were part of their lives. He's surrounded by the people he's impacted in those roles, big or small. He's now surrounded by the demographic that knows him from their times going to the theater with their mom and dad and their grandma and their grandpa. He, they know him from watching that VHS tape. Chad, it was goosebumps. I felt that when he said it was the best weekend ever. I felt like, one, I was surprised, but I got the goosebumps because I wish you all listening right now on YouTube, on Facebook, and 7minutestories.com/night stories or night radio. I got to get the actual address there. But my point is, we're streaming in a lot of places. I see a lot of comments coming through. I wish you all could have seen his face when he said that to me because it was not BS. He was moved and surprised. Art LaFleur was moved and surprised because I think he came into a moment and came into a group of people that finally or came of age to express to him how much he meant to them. They were 8, 9 years old seeing him in the Sandlot. Now they're 22, 23, and he's a core memory. And they're going to share with their kids that they haven't had yet, or their family that they haven't had yet, or their partner that they haven't met yet. They're going to share that movie with them. He didn't even recognize he had a relationship from a small amount of screen time playing a legend in a legendary movie that made an impact. Curtis is saying one of the best weekends ever for him. Yeah, it was. Elizabeth saying that was a magical weekend. It was. And honestly, it was groundbreaking to me because I realized the type of landscape it was actually in that industry for the first time. I realized that those moments of being appreciated in that way don't happen every single day. And he was at the right place in the right time. And in fact, I'm so glad it was serendipitous that we reached out. We didn't get Michael Keaton. We didn't get Richard Dean Anderson. We got Art LaFleur. Now, here's where a little bit of the sad part of the story comes in. He and I actually became friends. He became friends with so many of us, actually. And when those of us who were students at the time went our different ways, I went to New York, other folks went to LA. I had friends of mine who became friends of his and did projects and movies with him out in Los Angeles. And I kept in touch with Art for years. But you know how it goes, right? It's it's no one's fault. Life happens, you get busy and you go, "Yeah, I'm going to email someone or I'm going to talk to them." And then your life happens and you try to fit all the stuff that happens in your life into a day. And then you put it off another day, then a week, then a month. And so I would email him then every month. Then we would talk every year. And then it went years and years, and I didn't email him. He didn't email me until I got a call from my friend that he had passed away. Celebrity deaths hit different. Now, for me, this was no ordinary celebrity, as I told you. He was a legend to me, but it really hit me hard. One, I felt regret that I didn't reach out sooner, as we all do, right? Why didn't I reach out sooner? Or at least just say, hey, he had been privately battling an illness. He didn't tell anybody. I respect that. But I wish I would have reached out. And so I did what I could do with the skills that I do have. I told a story about him on my podcast, 7 Minute Stories. I told it, and it did so well, and it reached a lot of people. And our resident artist, Pete Whitehead, did a beautiful illustration of him that came out a few seasons ago. And that was my way of saying, hey, you are a legend to me. That was my way of saying, you know what, you're right. Your character was right. Those words that you read in that script for The Sandlot were right. Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. And to me, Art LaFleur was a legend. And I miss him. Celebrity deaths hit different. I know there's people right now still blasting Ozzy on 24-hour loop for Ozzy Osbourne and that loss. I know there's people, whether they like to admit to it or not, they're binge watching the Cosby Show because of Malcolm Jamal Warner and his passing. I know for me, when Art LaFleur passed away, I went back and watched all the movies he was in. Why do celebrity deaths hit different? Well, we already know from so many of you here, and at least my spinning of stories, it has to do with their attachment to memory. It has to do with a relationship that's built in that connection with that piece of art. We've kind of found out here that it has to do with some sort of a relationship here. It's not parasocial like social media. It's an artistic relationship. It's a something they've crafted as part of a collaborative group or a singular effort, whatever it is, or a song. They said something. They were part of a moment, and they were in the background. They become part of the tapestry. They're always on, right? I think earlier it may have been, I don't know if, I think it was Elizabeth had said something like Art LaFleur was on MASH. MASH, for any of you who don't know, and the old heads like me will know, any of you young folks, MASH broke records, the show, because there was no streaming. You just had TV. I was telling my daughter this earlier. We could go on a side quest here if you don't mind before we get to the next celebrity encounter and story that I have for you. You're not going to want to miss it, so hang tight. Real quick, it's 11:59 p.m. July 23rd, 2025. These are night stories. I'm your host, Aaron Calafato. Thanks for joining me. So many of you have. Maybe you've fallen asleep if you're on the East Coast. That means I've done my job. I've helped you unwind. You're relaxed. I'm here with you. Maybe you're going through a hard time and you just want to listen to some stories and have that voice in the dark. I got you. I'm here with you. Or maybe you're just laying back and just wanting to connect with your own memories, unlock your own memories. I'm here for you. I got you. We're talking about why celebrity deaths hit differently. Chad chimes in here. Yeah, Derek Thomas, Chiefs linebacker. He says, I cried at my locker in eighth grade. I also cried when Owen Hart died. Here we go. Here we go, Chad. Celebrity deaths hit differently. I'm gonna I'm gonna actually tell an Owen Hart story in a second. Before I get to that, and before I get to a few other ones I'm gonna lay on you tonight, I'm driving my daughter around. We're sitting at that dinner I was telling you about this evening, eating some sesame chicken. She's got chicken katsu, some white rice. I just want to let you know what I'm doing. It's all good. And I tell her, I said, the reason why it's so different now is, and maybe this is another reason why celebrities from decades past have such an impact, is because there was such a limited amount of creators and celebrities and artists who made an impact. And I say that because there wasn't as much opportunity. You only had a few channels, right? You only had a few radio stations. There's only so many concert venues. There was not the mass digital global media that we had. But when they did break when you did have a show that was popular, or an artist that was popular, or an athlete that was popular, or a team that was popular, and you saw them, where did you see them? You saw them on television. 70s, 80s, 90s, even early aught years, you saw them on cable. There was not streaming where you could record it, or save it for later, or DVR it. There wasn't that. For shows like MASH, you had to literally be there. Back in the day, like Dallas, when I was growing up, 90210, right? The Super Bowl. Unless you had a VHS player and you were recording something, it was live, it was in the moment. And so when you were an artist or a celebrity that broke through during decades past, and you hit that global level, like a Michael Jackson, good or bad, like any of these other people, right? There was an opportunity for you to hit a massive amount of people. Now, people are still reaching tons of people. I can speak to that with I had no idea my stories would reach 30 million people in the last 2 years. But even that, it's not it means a ton, but there was a different level that, like, an NFL player, an NFL team, or Ozzy Osbourne, or the Cosby Show, that felt different, hit different than a content creator now, or a celebrity even now, because you have this parasocial relationship, and sometimes it goes deep, sometimes it goes for the long game, sometimes it's the short game. My point is, it was just different. I don't care how many millions of views or downloads or whatever a creator has now, it's not the same as the Rolling Stones. It's not the same as Led Zeppelin. And I think that's because the options were limited. The impact was high and the options were limited. And we immersed ourselves in those limited options. As kids growing up, I can speak for me growing up in the late 80s, early 90s. You're watching TV. I remember they would have evenings where they would earmark on Fox, NBC, ABC 15 minutes to premiere a music video. And if you weren't there to watch it, you missed it. My daughter was like, wait a second, you couldn't just stream it later? No, no, no. No, there was no streaming. If you weren't there at 8 o'clock, you missed it. If you didn't record it, you missed it. And even when you recorded it, it wasn't the same thing. There was no binging of TV shows. You had reruns and syndication, but you didn't have binging at your discretion whenever you wanted to do it. That didn't exist. Maybe that's why so many of those celebrities who are passing now to us who are millennials and Gen X and boomers, maybe that's why it's hitting different. Because we even had a deeper relationship with them. Chad's spot on. We didn't know them. We don't know these people. Why does it hit hard and different? I'm telling you, man, I think it's because the relationship with those folks in the public eye was even deeper than today. Because frankly, everyone seems to be in the public eye because everyone's got a camera, everyone's got a phone, everyone is posting stuff. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. My point is, when everyone has access to the public sphere, whether they're known or not known, it makes it less impactful than when there's a few individuals who have access to the public sphere. And so for artists and creators, that always sucked because there was just a limited gate, right? There was a gate to get in, and usually it was guarded by big cable companies and media companies, and they were the editorial sort of monarchs who you had to go through. That's how you broke, right? You hoped, "Oh, I would get an agent would sign me, or this or that." Now, as I've done, you can make it on your own. Now, this is a beautiful thing, but that's why celebrity deaths now, folks like Ozzy, he's 76, young to some people, old to others. But my point is, he broke in the 70s and 80s. That was a different time. So I think the time has something to do with it as well. This isn't fact. This is just, talking. Just a storyteller talking to you here. We've now passed into the AM. Man, this has been a great one so far. I got a lot more. So hang in there. Got a couple more stories for you. It's now July 24th, 2025. It's 12:06 a.m. We are now in a Thursday, and you're with me, Night Stories. I'm your host, Aaron Calafato. We're talking about why celebrity deaths hit different. All right, I'm going to tell you a story now about an encounter with a celebrity that most people will know the name, even if you haven't seen any movies she's been in. You've probably seen or heard of the movie she's been in. Before I get to that, I think it was Chad and a few other people here have commented on Owen Hart. Now, for those who aren't into wrestling, I'm sorry to tell you, I'm a mad wrestling fan. But if you didn't know, you gotta you gotta remember that in the '90s it was on fire. WWF at the time is WWE, but there was an incident that if you didn't know, there was a guy named Owen Hart, who was the brother of Bret Hart, Canadian wrestlers, and there was a terrible mishap during a pay per view. I believe it was in the late '90s. I'm gonna look it up right now. May 23rd, 1999. Yeah, I remember watching the pay per view. So many of you were watching too, and it was a terrible scene. Owen Hart was, you know, not the most popular wrestler, but he was a well known wrestler, and he was a huge part of that roster. And I remember watching him every single day, every time I could see him. So he was a part of that story, my story. And live in 1999, there's this stunt that they do where he's trying to drop from the ceiling. There was this other wrestler called Sting, one of my favorite wrestlers, I think the greatest wrestler of all time. That said, he had a gimmick where he dropped from the ceiling in like a Dark Crow character, like Brandon Lee's The Crow from the 90s. And he had white and black face paint. He would drop from the ceiling on these cords. And it was a stunt and it was really cool. It was like this whole theatrical event. Well, in WWF, and now WWE at the time, Owen Hart would drop down as this character called the Blue Blazer. And they kind of mocked that dropping from the ceiling, but it was a dangerous stunt. And in 1999, on this pay per view, Owen Hart drops from the ceiling and there's a mishap. And tragically, he falls to his death and he died literally in front of people in the arena. I know it may have been later, but basically his life ended or was put in jeopardy. He fell and he hit the ring post. This is rough to talk about. So I'm telling you this because I remember watching this. I remember watching this and seeing that happen on TV, and they moved the cameras around and there was some way we were able to not see it, but that was that hit hard. I know there's a lot of people overseas. We have a lot of Canadian listeners, and I know, see, Elizabeth's mentioning you're in Australia. And you know what's wild is in boxing too, that's a dangerous sport. When Muhammad Ali died, that hit different. George Foreman just recently died, boxer. That hit different. You got these landmark fights and these moments growing up that we remember. And when these people are gone, I think it reminds us one of our own mortality. At least it does for me. As you're getting older, legends are kind of they're moving on. That's a hard thing to think about, right? It's real, it's okay, but it's difficult. The people that you grow up thinking are always going to be there because they seem indestructible, they seem so permanent. And the beautiful thing is, to a certain extent, they are permanent because it was captured in some way, it was on television, or it's there forever. That's, I think, why I love telling stories and archiving them this way. It's almost a way to be remembered here. Whatever life takes you, whatever happens after death, wherever it transcends to the unknown, the great unknown. I have my own view and a faith of what happens there, but my point is we don't know. That's the whole point. But it brings me comfort to know that I'm putting a stamp in the way that I can and telling stories in the way that I can to leave a legacy, to leave something here. So when celebrities pass away, it's almost like a part of our past passes away and it moves us further into the continuum of the future. That's freaking deep. That's hard to deal with, right? So that Owen Hart moment was difficult. But let me tell you about this other celebrity here that I, it wasn't an exact encounter, but I think you'll find it interesting. I moved from Ohio and it ended up being New Jersey because it was a compromise between my fiance at the time and I. I was studying acting in New York City, studied at some amazing studios, and the last story of the night I'll get to has to do with the teacher at one of those studios. But I had to bridge and tunnel. So in New Jersey, you got to take the Jersey Transit. I lived in a little town called Eatontown. It was near another city called Red Bank. Red Bank is where the writer, director, actor Kevin Smith is from. If you've ever seen any of Kevin Smith's movies, anyways, Kevin Smith is from Red Bank. That's another celebrity encounter. Okay, I got so many. Let me pause. I'm gonna organize this for you. So, anyways, I'm in Eatontown. My fiance at the time is going to grad school, and I'm bridge and tunneling. I'm taking the Jersey Transit train into Manhattan. I'm taking acting classes. So I had to work weird hours, weird jobs, weird hours, so that I could go to class during the day in New York City. So I worked all night at this Holiday Inn hotel off the New Jersey Parkway. And at this Holiday Inn, it was uniquely positioned next to a town called Red Bank, where, yes, the clerk's guy, that's right. Uh, it was oddly positioned to this town where Kevin Smith lived that had this wonderful theater. So there would be a lot of celebrities that actually stayed at this Holiday Inn, even though it wasn't glamorous, it was just the location. It was also right near the Jersey Shore, where at the time they were filming The Sopranos. And The Sopranos actually ate at the restaurant because there was something happening on the set that day. They came in and they ate at the restaurant attached to the Holiday Inn, and I got to wait with a couple other waiters on the table of the entire cast of The Sopranos. It was wild. It's another one for you. But at the time, I'm working as a waiter and I'm doing room service at this Holiday Inn. All kinds of weird celebrities popping in and out of there. Kevin Smith, the guy who wrote, directed Clerks and so many movies, they had a birthday party for him at the hotel, and I was like a waiter catering at Kevin Smith's birthday party. And I always went through this weird thing because at the time I was training as an actor, and you never want to be that guy that's like, oh, hey, I'm an actor, and you're just trying to enjoy your birthday, and I'm a waiter, and I'm going to try to pitch you on my acting ability to be in your movie. So I remember how hard that was for me, but I remember like giving him hors d'oeuvres, just looking at him and wanting to be like, I'm an actor, just, how you doing? But I just was like, hi. He was like, hey, thanks, man. He was really kind. But Kevin Smith had a birthday party that his friends and family threw for him at this hotel, at this restaurant next to the, or attached to the Holiday Inn. But my manager one day comes up to me and goes, hey, listen, we got a VIP. His name was Vince, and he's New Jersey. He goes, Aaron. You know, it's not Aaron, Aaron. We got a VIP. She's coming in. And there's a suite. Yes, there was a suite in this Holiday Inn. It was like the weird little opening in the top part. It was bigger than all the other rooms. And Vince tells me that he can't tell me her name. He goes, I'm not going to tell you who this is because she wants to be discreet. She's got a show in Red Bank. She's staying the night, but she has a lot of, let's say, line items in her contract in the rider with this place and with her agent that she has to have certain things set up in the room. But here's the thing, he said, I want to put you on this job, but you can't tell anybody about it, even if you find out who it is afterwards. And if you do a good job, I'll let you know who this person is. And he goes, and here's the best part. Since one of the other guys called off, I can't remember his name, she left you, whoever did this room, a $350 tip. It was like $300, $400 tip. And I was like, oh my God, at the time, it's like, this is a huge amount of money. Huge amount of money. So I take the job, and all I have to do is go up to the top floor, and I'm going through the list of what I got to do. I got to put her bed at a certain angle because apparently she was a singer, performer, and there's something about how you sleep. If you lay too far back, you get something, your throat. I don't know, I don't know this stuff. My point is, it says like at a 45-degree angle. So there's like the Craftmatic beds. I don't know if you have that where you grew up. Craftmatic, you hit the button and it like moves the bed up. I got to get a bed like that. I'm 42 years old. Come on. So I had to prop the bed up at a certain angle. I had to have M&Ms. She liked M&Ms, and then there was other things like weird stuff like crackers and candy, and then I cleaned it up really nice. She had a thing about making sure there was no crumbs on the carpet. I'm going through this list. I spent a couple hours prepping this room, dusting, making sure this was perfect. There was like an air filter. You had to do an air filter, so she got the bed propped up, got the air filter, all this stuff. And I remember after about an hour and a half, knowing that she was going to arrive in like 15 minutes, standing in this suite of a hotel. I didn't give a shit it was at the Holiday Inn. To me, this was the life. And I thought to myself, early in my pursuit as being a creative, I thought I was going to be an actor. I ended up being a storyteller, but the dream was the same, which was I feel like I have something to say. I hope one day I'll have something like this where I can go to a place and tell a story, or there'll be an audience waiting for me to tell a story to them. Or if I come to a hotel for a conference or a performance, it's not about the the swankiness of it. It's just about knowing that you're appreciated for what you do. And I looked at that room. I looked at that room and I thought maybe one day I'll have a place like this. Like I'll have a hotel room like this where I stay. It signaled to me that you had arrived. I got a bunch of you messaging me to ask, you guys are making guesses. You're making guesses. Liza Minnelli? No, it's not Liza Minnelli. It's not Liza Minnelli. It's a good guess, though. Actually, well, you'll find out here in just a couple seconds. I love that, Elizabeth. No more mention of my age. We can't lose you now. Now that we got you tonight, we can't lose you. I'm ageless, right? Age is just a number. So I go downstairs, and Vince is there. Vince goes, "The room looks good." I said, "Room is great, Vince." I said, "Vince, remember, can you tell me who it is?" He was like, "I don't know, Aaron. I don't know. Aaron, she's a VIP Aaron. It's on a need to know basis. You know what I mean?" I was like, "Vince, come on. I got to know who gave me this $350 tip, this $400 tip. That's so generous. They didn't have to do that. I really didn't, do that much work. I want to know who is that generous. I want to know what celebrity was that kind. I want to know that maybe that lifestyle that she's living, or that moment of arrival where she gets to perform and that someone makes a room for her, maybe that's something I can aspire to. I want to know." And he goes, "All right, Aaron, I'll tell you who it is. But you can't tell anybody because they don't want any weird stalkers bothering her." So I won't say a word. I'm not going to see her. I'm going home after my shift, Vince. Can you just tell me? He goes, "You want to know whose room you just did?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You want to know?" I said, "I want to know." and he goes, "Have you ever seen the movie Grease?" I said, "Of course." He goes, "You know the blonde, the main character?" I said, "Oh my gosh!" And he said, "Olivia Newton John. That's whose room you just did." And I remember for some reason feeling, and I'm just telling you this, a weird connection with Olivia Newton John because I had just prepped her room and she tipped me, not knowing it was me. But that made such an impact on me in my life. That was such a moment. Not only did I tell a story about it on 7 Minute Stories for so many of you to hear, it was like a moment for me of what it could be like to be a professional artist and maybe how a professional artist should act, you know? And maybe to her, $400 wasn't a lot of money, but she didn't have to do that. And then I looked into her life and, it seems like she was a really decent person. And when I told the story on 7 Minute Stories, it got tons and tons of listens. Then I did a short story about it here on YouTube and it, millions of views on it. Olivia Newton John. Now, started off this whole night by asking, why do celebrity deaths hit differently? Well, that one hit differently for me because it went beyond just knowing her. It was having crossed paths in a weird way. Same thing with Art LaFleur. There was a personal layer there. So when Olivia Newton John passed away, I was crushed. I remember friends being like, "Yeah, dude, like she's cool, like, but why are you so upset about this?" They didn't know. They didn't know my Olivia Newton John story. But now you do. It's just another reason why celebrity deaths hit differently. By the way, before we leave that New Jersey Holiday Inn, a couple of other quick ones. I mentioned Kevin Smith. I remember waiting on that table at The Sopranos, the whole cast. Tony Soprano. I say that because he became the character. But one of the kindest people, and one of the really the kindest sort of celebrity I'd ever met was James Gandolfini. And I remember waiting on him, and he told, "Hey, thanks, how you doing?" And I did get up the courage and said, "Hey, James, I'm an actor." He said, "Oh, that's what you do?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Keep at it, keep at it." I said, "Yeah, it's hard, man." He's like, "Keep at it, trust me, work for it, you got this." He was very encouraging. A fellow Italian American. I was like, "Ah, man, this freaking Tony Soprano giving me advice. I got Olivia Newton John giving me hundreds of dollars, and I got Art LaFleur having an amazing weekend." I look back on these moments, and these aren't traditional moments, They played a huge part. That's why when they passed away, when James Gandolfini passed away, it hit different. It meant a ton to me. Just that interaction. Not only because of his artistry, his beautiful acting. All right, I got one more for you, and then we'll start closing out the night here. Taking another sip of ginger beer, an unnamed ginger beer, a future sponsor, maybe. Amber's chiming in here. I thank you. She says I could listen to this forever. Well, I'm glad. Here's the problem. Don't tell me that because I've been doing these for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I could do this forever until my voice gives out. But thank you, Amber. Appreciate that. Chad guessed right. Olivia Newton-John. Dwayne's still with us. Elizabeth, David, Michael's with us from Utah. Hey, Michael. I know you all are coming to all these different streams. I got Facebook. We're streaming YouTube. If you're listening now on YouTube and you haven't, make sure and like the video thing. The algorithm is like you got to like it, and it tells more people about it. And each time we go live, more and more people. We're slow growing this, but this has been really great. Love this thing. Love telling stories to you all. This is Night Stories. My name is Aaron Calafato. I'm your host. If you're just joining us, I've been talking for the last hour and a half, almost hour and 15 minutes, about why celebrity deaths hit different. We started with talking about Ozzy Osbourne, the sad news that the influential heavy metal artist passed away. And we've talked about other celebrities who passed away recently. And then I started spinning webs, spinning yarn, telling stories about some of the interactions I've had with artists and actors like Art LaFleur and Olivia Newton John. Let's stay in New York though, because I mentioned that I studied acting in New York, and the first acting teacher I ever had, and luckily he's still alive, was a guy that you may have seen in a movie called My Cousin Vinny. And there's a scene in the movie My Cousin Vinny, there's a stuttering lawyer. Really funny, gray haired guy. And in the movie, Vinny, it's not Vinny, Vinny's Joe Pesci, but the guy who's on trial, also Ralph Macchio's in that movie as well. They get this lawyer in who's just a total dud, and he's trying to make his case, and he's stuttering, right? It's not fun if you have it's not funny to make fun of people who are stutter, but in this movie it just was hilarious because he's trying to get his point across. That guy's name is Austin Pendleton, and Austin Pendleton is actually from Ohio, from Warren, Ohio. And I remember I auditioned in the West Village at HB Studio, Herman Berghoff Studio, and Austin Pendleton was my teacher. It's like a pseudo celebrity. And I remember being like, okay, I'm in it now. But then there was another studio that I auditioned for and that I took classes at called the Michael Howard Studio. And one day at the Michael Howard Studio, we got an announcement that there was going to be a special guest teacher replacing one of our other teachers for a month. And I remember they were like, hey, listen, don't freak out because many of you know her. She's won an Oscar. So just be professional and enjoy the class. So we were like, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Before I get to that, I'm going to go back and see if I can get a couple of comments in here. Michael's already trying to guess this one. It is not Diane Keaton. That's not a bad guess though, Michael. Dwayne, I think is coming through on YouTube because I don't have the connection like you, but I remember when Princess Diana died. Princess Diana died. No, that is the connection. That's what we're talking about here. I do too, Dwayne. I remember being a kid, waking up in the morning. My dad had we were all radio heads. We love radio. My dad turns on the radio and all of a sudden I hear like breaking news from the BBC. Princess Diana dead. And I'm like, I remember it like leveled me. I don't know why. I didn't really know her. I knew her from popular culture, but there was something, right, Dwayne? There was something about that hit. It almost hits this sort of global moment. There's something there. So no, that's exactly what we're talking about. Let's take a time machine back to New York where I'm at this acting school and we find out we're gonna have this surprise teacher. So I'm sitting around in this classroom, a bunch of other young actors, and all of a sudden this woman with silver, just amazing hair, strong features, all black, black shoes, black pants, black shirt with a black shawl, comes walking in with her sneakers, like you got to have that when you're commuting walking around. All those subway users, those ladies in New York, guys too, but a lot of ladies, they take the heels off, they put the sneakers on, they know what they're doing. They're natives. They're New York natives. They don't they know they got to walk here and there. So she kind of walked in there, and I remember her turning around, looking at us, and I knew immediately who it was. It's an actress named Olympia Dukakis. And I remember I had never experienced a presence like her. She sat down in her chair, and the first thing she did was she yelled at her class. She goes, "When a teacher walks in a room, everybody should stand up. And everyone was like, what are you talking about? Because we were all just, American kids. She goes, listen, I, I'm telling you, I traveled around the country and I've traveled around the world. She went to Moscow, she went to Paris, and she taught classes. And she goes, I would go into so many of these classrooms. And when I would walk in, people would stand up, not because they were afraid, but out of reverence. And she goes, teachers and educators should be revered. And she goes, I'm not saying I should, but we should, she said. As American actors, we need to get our shit together, she said. We have so much talent, but we need work ethic and we need reverence for our teachers and for this craft. And she burst into a monologue and she started talking about how this is about having reverence for the craft. That's right. She was in Steel Magnolias, absolutely. And she was also in Moonstruck with Cher. I think that's where she won her Oscar. And I'm looking at her, I'm 20 something. And again, it's a legend. And I get to take a class from her? Are you kidding me? I didn't take that for granted. Have you ever seen any of the Inside the Actors Studios TV shows? There's one episode where Robert De Niro is given like a Q&A after his session with James Lipton, and Bradley Cooper is at the school. And he's a student. He gets up and he's Mr. De Niro, and he's talking to him. Bradley Cooper's a star now, right? There's a reverence there. I had that same reverence for Olympia Dukakis, and I remember sitting in every one of her class. And when she came in that next day, I stood up. She came in that next day, I stood up. And I remember doing a scene, and after the scene, she calls me over. She goes, I want to tell you something. She's like, you got something. You got something there. I was like, I really appreciate that, and that's great. And she goes, you have a grin. You have a smile. She goes, I know this is weird. She goes, you have a smile like a great actor I know called James Gandolfini. I said, you got to be kidding me. I just waited on James Gandolfini at a Holiday Inn. She goes, oh, if you see him again, tell him I said hi. She's like, you got that smile. Keep it up. Keep it up. Now, over the next few weeks, I got a little comfortable with her. I would ask her questions. We started talking, like, student teacher kind of thing. And I remember she gave me advice that changed the entire trajectory of my life, and really is one of the factors among many of the stories I told you here that got me to where I'm at, telling stories to millions of people around the globe. And that is, I came up to her and I was frustrated being a young actor in New York. And I thought, why aren't I working in this town? I was such a shit. Why aren't I working in this town? It's so hard. No one's casting me. Not getting the right opportunities. I got talent. I could be a contender, you understand? And all joking aside, I was complaining a little bit. I was just talking about how hard it is. And it was. It's hard. Acting is hard. You know, it's a crapshoot. But I felt like I was so close, and I was just coming to her for advice. And she said to me, she asked me this question, and this is why I am talking to you today, because of the answer that I eventually lived out. And she said, do you want to be an artist or an entertainer? She goes, stop your complaining. Do you want to be an artist or an entertainer? Before I give you my answer and what she said next, let me go back to the comments here. She's unbelievable in Moonstruck, Elizabeth. Unbelievable. And yeah, and you're right. Nick Cage, what's so funny? He's a hit or miss for me. He's a hit or miss for me, Elizabeth. Now it depends on the movie for me. It's like there's certain ones where he's out of his mind, but there's certain ones. Oh, there. And by the way, if anyone here is on the stream and they see it, I think Corey, you're coming through YouTube. Corey is my wife, my best friend, and she's helped so much with my career and my podcast. She must be listening from bed because I'm down here in the basement. Our kids are asleep. You're amazing. Corey's right. Corey is right. I make her watch Nicolas Cage. I make her watch Nicolas Cage movies. It drives her nuts sometimes. You are also right, Corey, that I love the movie Family Man with Nick Cage. It is absolutely one of the most underrated movies, and I would argue one of his best performances ever. Hey, the ending is what makes it beautiful, Corey. The ending, right? You know, but you don't know. No spoilers here. You got to have endings where you know, but you don't know. You got to have enough known, but you got to have enough unknown. That to me is a beautiful ending. But we'll agree to disagree. You know, let's go back to the story here and continue what my answer was and how I lived out my answer. Olympia Dukakis, if you're just joining us now, is a- asking me, do you want to be an artist or an entertainer? And I thought to myself, I was like, I don't know. She says, and Olympia Dukakis says, well, you're talking about how you're not getting roles. You're talking about how you're not making it in the industry. I hear you just talking about industry, industry, industry. She's checking me now. She's teaching me. I'm getting a master class from Olympia Dukakis, and she's cutting me to the core, and she's telling me how it is. She goes, if you want to just be in an industry, if you want to just work as an actor and make money, I can tell you how to do that. There's there's a template for that. That's about being a brand. That's about being a commodity. You can do that, or you can be an artist and impact people's lives on a cellular level. Now, she says, if you want to be an artist, you're going to have to sacrifice a lot of time. You're going to have to gamble with the fact that you may not be commercially successful in the way that you see some of these celebrities and some of these artists, but you could impact thousands. You could make a difference because if you want to be an artist, I advise you to go to where artists are needed. And if you have a career, you have a career. But if you want to be an artist, we need artists. I want to teach you to be an artist. So, whatever you have inside of you, the thing that drives you, don't go after it to be part of an industry. Go into it to make a difference. So she said, you're going to have to answer that for yourself. But I see that you have something to give that is artistic in merit, and you should go after it. Damn, that hit me. And she even told me, she goes, listen, I spent decades in New Jersey running a theater. She goes, I think she was at her 70s. She goes, I'm in my 70s. I won an Oscar as someone who isn't elderly, but who is older. But she goes, and it's even better this way because I got to live a life. I lived a life. I was in the theater. I had a family. I struggled for my art, and that made a difference. And I was lucky to have a career. I couldn't ask for anything more fulfilling. So I took that advice. And when I came back to Cleveland, I remember deciding I was going to be an artist. I was going to tell stories. I was going to build a career from scratch, telling stories autobiographically about my life, but with the intention to help unlock people's memory, to connect with them on a real level. So when Olympia Dukakis passed away, not too long ago, a few years ago, I did what I did with Art LaFleur. I told a story about it. But it hit different when it did. It really hit because her advice is still in me and she's not here. The movies we watch are still with us, but so many of them are not here. When I'm rocking to Ozzy Osbourne as I'm taking my nightly walk, the music is here, but he isn't here. The episodes with Malcolm Jamal Warner on Cosby, we can watch them on streaming services and binge them and see that smile and hear that voice crack when he grows up in front of us on the screen. But he's not here anymore. But they all are, though, right? Because they left something. And when we have that artistic exchange, we carry them with us. And so there is something eternal about that. And that's why I think it hits differently. Before we get to the end here and I close up shop, let me get back into the comments. It looks like Elizabeth, I think you are in Australia, and my wife Corey are having a dialogue. I love this. Let me go here. Oh man, I haven't heard about this movie. I got to look this up. It's called, okay, A Surfer Who's Menaced by Australian Surfer Gangsters. Let's go. Yes, it was Michael Dukakis. I think there was a question here about whether Olympia's brother was in politics. Yeah, Michael Dukakis. Yep, I think he ran against, I think it was George Bush in the early 90s on the Democratic ticket and lost, I believe. I'm not the most politically astute, but I can be dangerous. Yeah, you got. I love that. Very Italian American. I always want to howl at the moon with the dogs like the grandpa from Moonstruck. I'm howling every night. This is my version of howling. It's now 12:42 a.m. July 24th, 2025. We've been uh, on the air here for almost 2 hours. I got a few more minutes in here. I got a few more minutes in me if you have it. Thank you so many of you for joining, for participating in the conversation, for spinning stories with me. So many of you on the East Coast, you're probably asleep. I hope you are. That means I've done my job. Help you unwind. You stayed with me. Maybe my voice led you off to sleep. That's cool with me. I know me, I listen to podcasts every single night. I've always listened to radio. I've always listened to late night radio, storytelling radio. I've listened to sports radio in my ear. There is something about someone talking in a way where they, told me stories or when they took me on a journey, not where they're screaming at me, but something that felt comforting. I love that, and I love falling asleep listening to trains. We got trains that go through our town here, and they've been following me for years and years and years. But I love that. I always tell my kids, you hear that sound, and when the sun goes down, they hear the night train go by. Some people watch movies, fall asleep. Maybe there are some people who listen to Ozzy Osbourne. That's one thing. As much as I love Ozzy Osbourne and we've come full circle, I didn't listen to Ozzy at night because listening to heavy metal is not something that's easy to fall asleep to. Some people binge watch cable TV. Some people sleep in the dark. I don't know about those people, but I can't. I got to have some sort of light, some sort of hope, some sort of sound, some sort of guide. And I'm so glad to be here with you tonight. Yeah, man, celebrity deaths hit different. And there's been a lot of them recently, and I think it's funny. They always happen in three. It's like a rule of three. And something, when that happens, we all kind of take a pause. I really mean this globally. All of us who consume stories, we're consuming the stories of what it is to be human and really consuming the stories of each other. And so many of these notable artists and creators are the nexus between us, the commonality, the vessel of those stories, and we find each other in them. And when those practitioners fade or age out or die unexpectedly or tragically, it makes an impact. Art LaFleur made an impact on me. Olivia Newton John made an impact on me. Olympia Dukakis made an impact on me. Got a lot of new subscribers tonight, I believe. This is great. We have over 35,000 now on this YouTube channel, so thanks for joining. Uh, there's a lot of ways you can interact with me, and I'll just shortly kind of list it out here as we say goodnight. If you like short stories, the bulk of my audience still joins me every Thursday for 7 minute stories. So, not 2 hour sessions like this. In fact, a lot of 7 minute stories are either rehashed or born here on this live program, but they end up on 7 minute stories every Thursday. It's a little extemporaneous autobiographical story from my life. I don't write anything. I turn on the microphone, I hit a timer, I tell a story, and it goes out to you. And hopefully, it connects with some memory and leaves you better than you found it. So, find me on any podcast platform where podcasts are found. Just search 7 minute stories and join over 30 million people and listeners in the last 2 years to listen to one of those. There's over 300 of them. You can join me here just for these lives, the night radio with myself, Aaron Calafato. You can join me here as I spin web, spin yarn, try to interact with you as much as I can and multitask and just be a guide, late night radio style. That's what we're trying to do. It's like a YouTube radio dial or wherever you're tuning in from. Want to be that voice in the dark in a really kind of monotonous, scary, loud world. Hopefully, this is something that kind of helps you reset and unwind. So you can find me on this YouTube page for that. You can also watch a new series I'm launching on YouTube. It's the Storytelling University. So if 7 minute stories is where I tell my stories on Thursday, Storytelling University is where I get to talk with story practitioners. We've had some amazing guests so far. We released an episode featuring Nora Lee Schoonmaker, aka Itchy Boots. She's a viral sensation on YouTube. You can check out episode 1 on my YouTube page. And also, our next episode coming out is with a gentleman named Angus Fletcher. He's a story scientist at the Ohio State University's Project Narrative. He was recently featured in Malcolm Gladwell's last podcast, or I'm sorry, Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, Revisionist History. And so Angus joins me and we talk story. And I ask him a ton of questions and pepper him with questions about why stories are here, why they emerge, and the science and the neuroscience behind it. I was as curious with him as Malcolm Gladwell was on his podcast. And so we'll have Angus's episode 2. We've talked to Soledad O'Brien, formerly of CNN, radio legend, NPR public radio legend Julie Shapiro, and so many more guests. I can't wait to share with you. But that's right here on this YouTube page. If you are on YouTube, if you're on any of the other streaming services, hop over to YouTube only because you might hear me live here, but there's a lot more to digest. I have shorts, nostalgia shorts that come out usually every other week there, and these lives. So there's a lot of ways to connect with me. Yeah, and a lot of different platforms for the podcast. Yeah, Apple, Spotify. Dwayne's mentioning Pandora. We have a big audience on Pandora. We're actually trying to get a hold of folks at Sirius who own Pandora because we're trying to build a distribution partnership with them, essentially lending them these stories for free and then having them connect with more of you out there listening. By the way, I haven't mentioned this. All of my 7 minute stories are and will always be commercial free. They've been since the very beginning. It's art. And so people always go, well, how do you make your money? Well, I help businesses and companies and corporations around the globe tell better stories and make podcasts. So I do that behind the scenes for my consulting firm. And that allows me to keep 7 minute stories on podcasts everywhere, free and open to the public and commercial free. Because what are you supposed to do? You're going to put like a commercial in the middle of the 7 minutes? I don't want to do that to you. We might get some sponsorship for this show and some of my other series. There might be paywalls there as I, grow this thing. But 7 minute stories will always be free and open to the public, commercial free. Whoever you are, whatever you make, that's my gift to anyone who enjoys a story. As Corey says, thanks for joining us. All the world's a stage, and we are merely players. You're right, Elizabeth. Um, I'm just going through some of these comments here. Yeah, and Dwayne mentions the podcast thing. Yeah, it's interesting. You got the Pandora has that music loop, right? I actually like the way Pandora works as well. I know there's a lot of discovery of different stuff like podcasts because it kind of comes up into your feed. So thanks as always for joining us. How? Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many comments coming in. They're mentioning all these different celebrity deaths. Yeah. And also I see too there, it's a sad thing. We went and saw, I think some of you were talking about Billy Joel. I don't know who started that, but Elizabeth, I saw your comment. Billy Joel, my wife, I keep saying my wife, you know my wife if you're listening, Corey. But we went to see Billy Joel in Cleveland, and I'm so glad that we did because we found out he's probably not going to tour again because he's got some, an issue that he has to, I think he has to get a stent. I don't know what the diagnosis is, but my grandfather had it. It's just, it makes it difficult to perform because you have to have like a stent, I think, put into your brain, and it basically, drains fluid. It's just, it's rough, man. It's rough. Um, so God bless, Billy Joel and so many of these icons that are part of our lives and always have been. And by the way, here's the thing though, uh, whatever they've created is always there and it is ageless. It's like stories are, it's ageless. Okay, folks, I'm going to tune out for tonight. If you are on YouTube, make sure and hit that notification bell so that you get notified because right now we don't have a schedule for these night story sessions. What I can tell you is they are at night, and I usually go late night because I'm a late night owl. So I'm going to keep going around this time. But please hit that notification, hit that like button, and share this with someone that you like or could get down with these stories and wants to join this little community we're growing here in the live setting. We'd love to have them. We want to keep having you participate, keep talking with you. And eventually, if you guys decide that you want me to have this on a regular schedule so this can be more dependable, we can do that as well. But for now, I'll just keep going. Been trying to go 2 to 3 times a week, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Until the next story, let's see where the story takes us. I'll talk to you soon. Good night, everybody.